everybody, welcome to Excel video 386. I'm Nate Moore. I was working on an interesting project the other day for a group that said, hey, go back and get all of our appointments since 2011. We want to see all patient visits and tell me how many of our patients only went to Clinic A, how many only went to Clinic B, and how many only went to Clinic C. Now, how many of those went to A and B or B and C or all three? And it's helping them understand what their patient flow looks like. Are there patients that won't go to one location, but they will go to this location, that kind of thing. When you're ready to better manage your practice with data, let's talk. I want to play with slicers today. We've talked about slicers for pivot tables in the past. New in Excel 2013, you can do slicers with tables. Two ways to get a slicer in your table, and then we'll talk about how to do it. From the table menu, from Table Tools, you can go to Design and Insert Slicer. That will do it. You can also, from the Insert menu, insert a slicer. Either one of those will get it for us. So I'm going to go to Design and Insert Slicer. And what Slicer is going to do is it's going to list, hey, I've got patient, appointment date, appointment time, provider, see patient, appointment date, appointment time, provider. It's going to take all the columns that it found in the table and said, Nate, what do you want to slice your data by? And let's say, well, I want to look at provider, I want to look at location, maybe the referral source and what their primary insurance is. So I'm going to pick 4 of these columns and click OK. And Excel is going to build 4 slicers for me. And notice how I have automatically selected one of these slicers, so I get the Slicer Tools menu with options. What I can do from the Tools menu is I can say, hey, I want this to be 2 columns. I can certainly size this thing so it fits. And then I have multiple slicers here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll change the color scheme of this one. Put this over here, and here's my referral source. And maybe we'll put this like that. And let's change the color of that. And then we can come over here. And let's drag the slicer over here first. And make it a lot smaller. And maybe put that over here. And change that. And then we'll come over here and drag this here. And this one maybe let's see what 3 columns looks like. If we do 3 columns, that's pretty good, but what we're going to need to do is make it wider. Something like that. That will help Dr. Campbell out a little bit. There we go. So here are my slicers, and what a slicer will do is filter for me. So if I slide over here so I can see, and I only want to see where the referral source was an employer, I can click employer, and my table automatically filters to do that. And then what I can do is I can come over here and say, no, I want hospital and physician, and come back, and you'll note that hospital and physician are filtered in the slicer. This filter here checking the box and this filter here in the slicer are connected. Makes it really easy, especially for folks that don't want to get worked up with this menu and a little bit intimidated by what are all these different options. You can just say, hey, you want to filter something, you just come over here and click, and you can see what's going on. Notice what the slicer will do for you. By filtering to, let's say, these docs and these locations, this primary insurance, see how Aetna, Medicare, and Medicaid are available to select and darker, whereas Blue Cross, United, and Cigna are not? What that tells me is, based on the filtering I have in my table right now, there is no Blue Cross in the table. There is no United. There is no Cigna. These are not gray. These are not selected. So there's kind of 3 different options here, if you will. The dark ones are available. The grayed out ones are not in the current data, and the ones that are just normal are ones that aren't selected. So I can go in and get Evans, and you can see Evans is only at one location, but it referred from a physician. But if I take this filter off, notice how I'm taking the filter off by clicking here. I can take the filters away, and now I've got my entire list. And as soon as I start saying Dr. Campbell and start my filter down, there are no Dr. Campbell Cigna lines in my table. Does that make sense? What we're trying to do is use the slicer to, at a glance, by selecting things, it'll show us, hey, Collins only has Aetna and United Healthcare. You can select Medicare if you want, but you're not going to find Collins and Medicare that way. So we'll take the filters away. And it's a quick way to analyze your data without necessarily filtering every single column to see what's going on. As a slicer, you can drag to get Campbell, Collins, and Edwards, or I can hold down the Control key and get ones that aren't next to each other to get Dr. Phillips and Dr. Roberts. There's all kinds of ways that I can play with these slicers, and the way I got them is from the tables, design, or from the Insert and Slicer menu to play with the table. That's the basics of slicers and slicer tools, how you can change columns, you can change the height and width and some of those kind of things. Stay tuned next time. I want to show you a couple of slicer options that you might find helpful as you get a little bit more familiar with what slicers can do for you. Thanks for watching.